Hi everyone, glad you could join us for yet another edition of Roundball Digest. My name is Connie Costanzo, and as always, we are joined by Fran Libinati and the Hazleton area boys basketball coach Bruce Labb. Beat goes on. Hazleton area wraps up the first half with a big win on the road at Coughlin.
Yeah, since last time we spoke, Connie, we're looking at 3 wins.
Yep.
We go to Pittston, we go to Altoona, and of course Coughlin. 3 tough games because of where you play the opposition, and coach has to feel real good. We said before that getting that team, it seemed right at the Christmas break, they're really in high gear.
Yes.
And he has to be thrilled with the way they've looked.
Yeah, I am. Lib, we've been playing well, playing hard. The Coughlin game, to take that first just a little bit, we found another way to win a basketball game. I don't prefer doing it that way, of course, but you know, we're down 12 at halftime, showed a lot of guts, actually, to use an old-fashioned term, just coming back and doing the job.
Definitely did. Big win for Hazleton area, and by the way, that's the first loss for Coughlin in league play. Well, when we come back from this break, we'll talk about the Pittston area game, the Altoona game, and have first half highlights of that game at Coughlin. More on Roundball Digest after this. Back here on Roundball Digest. Great show coming up in the next couple of minutes. Let's go back, Fran Libinati, and talk about the Pittston area game. Very physical contest. Hazleton area comes out with the W.
Yeah, that's right. They're a tough club. I think Pittston plays, good brand of basketball, but again, they're not going to give you anything that's easy or cheap, and I think that it showed that our team was able to adjust to that. I thought it was an interesting game, and the fact that Coach Labb again wanted to go into getting a couple of victories set up because he did have the tough weekend coming up with Altoona, of course, and then having to face Coughlin, but always a challenge. Pittston, I think, over the years, especially away from home, always a real good test for the Cougars.
You did not like, toward the end of the ball game, a little bit of the physicalness of the contest.
You want to get right into the negative, don't you?
Well, you talked about it toward the end of the ball game, and I wanted to address it tonight.
Well, there was definitely a cheap shot thrown at the end of the game. I don't know that it was a real physical game up to that, although they do play physical. I think there was just something written about the squad, and I know we had a scout at the game where a couple players were thrown out, but I don't know much about it other than we scouted the game. However, our player was clearly tackled. It's shown on the film. Right before the tackle, we had Michael Barletta elbowed. He had a gash in his head. The officials saw it as a foul. They called that. I, of course, was complaining that it should have been a flagrant foul. So we had a difference of opinion on that. Their judgment was that it wasn't flagrant. I think several officials might have seen it different, but again, I'm not blaming the officials. I just thought, you have a 240-pound kid tackling a 140-pound kid. I don't care how big he is. It's wrong. It should be called flagrant. You're gone. You're gone. And right before that, actually, Michael Barletta got an elbow. I thought he was caught in a fray of the tackle, but he actually got hit, and then he really didn't realize it. He went over to try to protect Brent Teeters. And then the next thing I knew, I saw blood coming down his face, and looked a lot worse than it was. But it was a gash that would have required about 6 or 7 stitches.
I don't want to talk about the events that led up to you getting a technical foul. I do want to talk about the fact that
that's
a good coach,
what they were.
Right, a good coach will stick up for their players, and that's what you basically did after there was no call there.
Well, basically, I saw the blood, and I'll admit to you, when you get surprised, I've been coaching a long time, but you see something that shocks you, and you want to protect, like the mother hen, you want to protect your players. And I probably looked foolish out there. My wife said, I was laughing, you're stomping your foot, and this and that. You looked silly out there, but she knew why I was doing it. But, I watched it too, and there's several things that I do on television or wherever that, I'm not proud of, but that's exactly what I was doing. I don't really care. People say, well, geez, you were on TV. I forgot about WYLN, and I forgot about, Conio doing his great play-by-play at that time. My whole concern was for my player. I got angry. My German and Italian clashed, and I went off.
Just to buttress that, I think even at the time of the game, because the game was safely tucked away, and it shows that he's not looking at the win, he's looking at the incident, and he's right. In that situation, I get very fearful sometimes when you do have a team that's ahead by several points, that you wonder if this kind of thing might develop. And I think he's right. Again, I'm not an official, but if you have a flagrant foul in the book, then I don't know how do you define a flagrant foul. And that's a situation where they have to be alert. and they have to stay away from an injury coming near the end of a game in which it's already been decided. So I think that Coach Lab is he's explaining that he, at the heat of the moment, and he's right, he does get very animated because he's not expecting it in this game. It looks like, you know, things were going to be probably a little bit more tranquil.
To add to that, how about not even an intentional? See, let's go over that. An intentional foul, we go this way, okay? A flagrant foul, you're tossed. You're not necessarily tossed for an intentional foul. There wasn't even an intentional foul called on a clear tackle. And again, I'm not disputing the officials. I thought they did a good job to that point where they had a difference of opinion on judgment, but I don't know how else you could call that. And I don't think I would have went off as I did if I wouldn't have seen the blood. It looked a lot, like I said, a lot worse than it was, but I still would have probably gotten a T, I'm sure.
Last question about this, and then we'll move on to the Altoona game. Were you given an explanation on why there wasn't any kind of foul called?
I believe there was a foul called, if I'm not mistaken.
There was, okay.
Again,
He
you know,
wasn't either intentional
to
or
Okay,
be
was there an
honest-
explanation on why there wasn't an intentional foul called?
no, no. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
I didn't really have a chance to discuss it with the officials.
Okay. Let's move on, talk a little bit about the Altoona game, and I want to ask you a little bit about the non-league scheduling. I know we've hit on this a little bit, but it's very important for you to play, at least during your non-league schedule, the games that you control, the toughest opponents that you possibly can, and certainly when Altoona drove to Hazleton to take on the Cougars, you got a very good game from a very good team.
Definitely. A real good team, I thought, played a very good 2-3 zone matchup. They really matched up well, as good as any team we've seen in a while. They had some size, they had some quickness, and I thought their defense was very good.
I think in that game, I'd just like to ask Coach, I think we might have trailed something like 16-3.
Right.
And again, they did everything beautifully. I think they came in with a 6-4, 7-4 record against a very, very difficult schedule. And I thought, again, with Coach has done, when I think of the fact that he had beaten Parkland, you know, a real good team, and Altoona, that these are, again, learning experiences. And that's why I'm thinking that, you know, what events happened later, the victory at Coughlin and so forth, that you could have almost predicted this. Team really playing great. But I'm wondering, at 16-3, what goes through your mind in a situation?
Well, that's a good point, because we did come back against Altoona, which really helped us come back against Coughlin. And even though it was an away game, Altoona was, you know, every bit as good as Coughlin. There's no question, although Coughlin's very good. They had a tough point guard and so forth. But what goes through your mind really is you know, it's early in the game, and early leads are really deceiving. And when things play out, they have their way of playing out. There's foul trouble. There's, you know, somebody gets hot. Somebody usually has to take the game over at that point. Usually it's like a Michael Barletta type kid who says, like, okay, end of offense, let's move the ball, get me the ball, and I'm taking it to the hole and I'm going to the line, because nothing's happening. And that's basically what he did in transition in that game, if you remember. He just started taking it to the hole, and he threw a couple bad shots up, but I wasn't really upset, because they were, you know, errors of trying to do something outwardly, and every guys were standing around because of their defense.
That's become a trademark, because over the years now, since you're at both Hazleton and Hazleton area, there are very, very few times where you jumped out to a big lead and didn't hold it. But there are a tremendous number of times, a myriad of times, where people have jumped out and you've made adjustments and we've come on to win the game.
Well, we, you know, holding the ball, we definitely play for good shots. We haven't really gone into a delay per se this year. I know our secretary at school, Gertie Keck, doesn't like our delay game very much. She'll be interested to know her. She's been on television, but she says, please don't go into that, the triangle RT game.
And you've listened to her evidently.
Well, we haven't gone into the type of team we have. I really try not to listen to her on too much about basketball, but even though we love her dearly, she does not like when we hold for the last shot. But I tried to explain to her at the end of each quarter, if we have the lead or it's tie and we get the last shot, the worst we can remain is the same. And she's counted how many times we've thrown it away, however. And I think she's embellished some of the things, like Conio's embellished some things with us.
Again, another large piece of fiction from in any event, we want to talk a little bit about the Coughlin. Yes, you are. You're Bruce Live. We want to talk a little bit about the Coughlin game, a game that you saw here on WYLN Tuesday night. Let's take a look at some of the first half highlights. And unfortunately for Hazleton area, in the first half of this ball game, the Cougars were down early, Coach?
John Veet really had the hot hand going, thank goodness, early. Hits the shot in the lane, and he was taking it. Matt not really squared up, can hit that shot. John Veet again on the boards, really playing well, really playing well. He came with his offensive game. Notice he catches and just turns, and he's ready to score. He kept us in it early. He really did. Here's a set play for Bobby Broyan, who has a very quick release. I believe Michael Barletta threw him a real nice pass so he could get into a shot. That's, I believe, Jamer, one of the kids off the bench. He makes two nice fakes, makes a move he doesn't look like he should make. There's Boylan, he's everywhere. Inside, outside, they find him.
It's a very tough squad you beat last night.
Yeah, he's really tough. He could find people. This is what upset me the most, the way we just kind of went out and let McLaughlin get into his shot. It's too late to just go out and touch him, after he releases. 3 times this happened in the first half, and they have the 12-point lead.
What is it? It's 32-20 at halftime.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
Yep. It was a 12-point lead. And I want to talk to you a little bit about those halftime adjustments, because first 5 minutes, the third period, and the first are so critical in any kind of sport. And the adjustments that you made in the locker room obviously helped going into the third period. Talk to us a little bit about what you told your players, what you wanted to improve on.
Maybe really the word adjustment is overrated, but really, what I see going on in the game that's hurting my team, I go in and tell our players about. And usually that comes from a defensive standpoint to start, okay? We were not defending Roman McLaughlin at all. That's number one. And it's quite simple. And I was upset about it, and I let the kids know that. Now, sometimes I'll go in the locker room and I won't be upset at all. But, I didn't yell and scream at them, but I raised my voice a little bit and said, we've worked this hard against these teams, and we're letting this kid, who's a very good shooter, get open shots. Part of that was John Boylan's penetration, no-look passes, but we should be used to that. We had just played a very good guard from Altoona, so we discussed a lot of that. Okay, I thought, again, 20 points should have been enough for a team like ours on an away court, not shooting real well, but giving up 32. You do that in the second half, you're giving up 64. We usually allow in the 40s.
Okay, well, guys, we have to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have some second half highlights of the Hazleton area at Coughlin game. Roundball Digest is coming back after this. Back here on Roundball Digest with Fran Libonati and Bruce Leib. I'm Connie Costanzo. Want to ask you about your thoughts about the first half, a half that was very good for Coughlin. Crusaders at the half are up by 12.
Okay, Coughlin played about as well as you can. I think that they came out. Coach Quinn had an excellent game plan. They were able to get some pretty good shots. The thing that I think probably made me feel relatively calm was the demeanor of Coach Leib. He did not appear to be overly upset. He's probably analyzing what had happened in the first half. And again, I'm a history teacher, Connie.
Yes, you are.
Not that it repeats itself. People keep saying that. That's incorrect. There are similar events in history that continue to occur and that are never really solved. And I think that what happened in this situation, that over the years, Coughlin has played some tremendously exciting games against Hazleton, extremely competitive. But fortunately, in the long run, we've been able to win a great percentage of those. And I felt at halftime that there would be some adjustments and it would be a close game. And I'm not going to say, well, gee, I expect Hazleton area to win. But I knew that there was no way there'd be a 12 or a 10-point difference at the end. If you've checked the scores over the years, extremely close, extremely competitive. And fortunately, for the most part, we usually come out victorious. And we were, again last night, just a tremendous high school basketball game.
Well, since we have a former history teacher and a current history teacher here, I'll say to you that historically, Hazleton area, their forte, outstanding defense. And in the second half, Hazleton area let Coughlin score, 9 points in the second half? And obviously, if you can hold a team under 10 points in the second half of a contest, you've got a real good shot at winning the game.
He's played some tremendous defense, Coach Leib's teams, but I think he's going to have to go back to find a better effort, because you're talking a quality opponent, a team that went unbeaten in the first half at home, and they're well coached and an excellent team, and you're saying you're going to hold them under double figures? No way. I'm not saying I expected that, But I think that's what turned it. Was what Coach said. He makes the adjustments defensively, and they really did choke the offense in that second half.
Talk about the effort defensively, Coach.
Well, I think our kids, again, the adjustments really have to be made by the kids. They weren't happy with the way they were playing, and they came out, and they really, maybe a couple of them were really upset with the way they were playing, and they came out and they reached back a little bit, and that's what you have to do. They were getting easy buckets early. We talked about that. There was nothing, I mean, they had, again, Coach Quinn had a nice game plan. He was putting 4 and 5 guys on the perimeter at times and making some nice cuts, but there were guys open. We've had teams, everybody cuts from the top and the wings, and he runs some really nice stuff against the matchup, there's no question. But they had a couple guys open on the baseline that should not have been open. And again, some shooters that should have been crowded or we fire out upon, as we call it. And the kids did that in the second half. They did what we practice every day. They went out and said, we're going to do this in the second half because these guys are good. If we don't do this, they are going to blow us, off the floor.
A tremendous second half, and if you didn't see the game on WYLN, you missed one of the best games in 1997 and 1998. Okay, let's take a look at some of the second half highlights. Coach, this is where Hazleton Area makes a run. Third period action here.
Lob play from Michael Barletta. Matt Tucker makes an excellent catch and scores 2. That's our first 2. So pass into Michael Barletta. I believe we score the first 4 in the lane. Makes a nice athletic play, and you can see the steps a little quicker. Nice pass by Bobby Brown. He was falling out of bounds. That was a broken play there, obviously. Matt Tucker again. He's starting to turn it on now. He scored 6 of the first 8 there. Some ball movement. That's Chris Leib, who came in off the bench hitting a big 3. Giving Nate Mariano. It's nice to see Nate Mariano clapping. Nate was struggling a little bit, but that's the kind of kid he is. And here's John Veet with a rebound, big play. Nathan comes back, and I'm sure you'll show him doing something real big here real soon. There's Matt Tucker taking a 3, and we'll watch this tap. John Veet going way up. Not a great leaper, but he times it beautifully. He's having a great game. Best game of his career, his young career. This looks bad. This is we're not supposed to be in man. We actually pick up man. Napkori takes it right down the gut, and it doesn't look good. He hit the 3-point play. We get a break here on a couple blocks. Ball rolls around. We're down 3. Nathan Mariano's inserted back into the game. He shot 2 that didn't come close, and just for the kid to take that shot takes guts, but for him to hit it, well, what can you say about him? One of the nicest kids you'll ever want to coach. Matt Tucker, big block. Bobby Broyan getting it out of there real nice. And Michael Barletta looking for this shot. One of the college coaches there said, "Did you want him to take that?" And I said, "Not really, but that's a shot he could hit." And,
I was just going to say that's your style all year long. You've been very loose.
Exactly. John Veet, big rebound. Tap for the rebound, hits the 2 free throws. And if you have a game ball to give out, it goes to John Veet. I mean, great team effort, but like I said, his best game. 13 points, I believe, 8 or 9 rebounds.
And then the final 14 seconds.
Okay, we basically picked Boylan up man, of course, and we had been doing that. And they're going to try to come off the screen and work for him. If not, they're going to get Napkori or McLaughlin. And he gets a good shot off there. It just doesn't fall. That's a real good shot.
I thought that the job that Nate and Chris did on Boylan, really a big factor, because we talked about some of the other shots that you're saying. I think the 3s that Chris and Nate hit were really big. I wanted to say one other thing before we react to that. We were talking at halftime, and I said, you're going to probably do something. It made me look really good. I said, you might set up the back door for Tucker to start the second half to get him more involved. And as you said, 6 of the first 8 points from Matt in the second half. You got him involved, and I thought your point guards did a great job.
Yeah, he needs to, he was taking his shots in the first half, but you're right. We had a set play for him that he hit, and then he just squared up, and, Matt is hot and cold, and when he's on, he's as good as anybody. I mean, 6'7", he's athletic, he could shoot it, he gets up in the air, he runs the floor, but it's not like I shouldn't say when he comes to play, because he does come to play every night, he works hard at practice, but when he's shooting the ball, he's very tough.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about Matt. Matt had 3 fouls, was basically on the bench for parts of the second period.
Excuse me,
fouls.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
yeah.
I know you enjoy hearing me
No,
say that word, but I want to ask you about the play of Lenny Leshko, who had to step up in the second period, and he played pretty well when he got the opportunity to get in there.
Excellent point, Connie. He played super. That's Lenny's best performance. He's a big, strong kid, has had a little trouble finishing layups, and he's finished. I mean, he finished 3 of them there last night. We had 2 and 2 free throws. And that, I'll tell you something that's really helping us, our volunteer assistant coach, Jeff Antolik. You know, I've told Lenny and some of the kids these things for 3 years. It's somehow Jeff walks in, he tells it to them, he's done them. He's a younger guy, a lot younger, and they're relating to him very well. He's been a big, big plus for us, along with Coach Ritz and Coach Fior. But they're also older than Jeff, so he's the youth, one of our former players, and you know, he's had me as a coach. He knows how I coach, my style, and he's really helping those kids.
Guys, we have to take another time out. Final segment here on Roundball Digest is coming up in just a second, but a reminder, next couple of games for Hazleton area as the Cougars will begin the Wyoming Valley Conference Division I play in the second half. Saturday night, hosting Nanticoke area. TJ Walton Fuel Oil, Johnson's Pharmacy, Gebhardt's, Bookman's Auto Center, Service Electric Cablevision, Ferdinand's, Groceries Plus, Mellon Bank, and Dr. Michael Weiss. Ready to wrap up Roundball Digest, Coach? Just a couple seconds left. Talk a little bit about Nanticoke area. You're hosting them on Saturday.
Oh, we definitely want to show that we could play Nanticoke better than we did the first time. I think the kids will come ready and pumped up for the basketball game. Nanticoke's a very good team. They just beat Berwick down at Berwick, which we thought was going to be a good game. But we felt we were a little embarrassed up there, really. And we don't like to be embarrassed, and we did it to ourselves. We did not play well.
Well, good luck on Saturday night and also Tuesday night at Wyoming Valley West. As always, a pleasure to be with Fran Libinati and Bruce Live. And of course, a pleasure to be with you as well. I'm Connie Costanzo. We'll talk to you next week here on Roundball Digest. So long.